Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. In today's video we're going to be painting on some stone, and this isn't any stone. This is stone from the Niagara Escarpment. I picked this up along the Bruce Trail, and some rocks from the escarpment actually fell down. They were on the trail. Instead of just kicking them to the side, I just picked them up and brought them with me. And I want to explain the process for how I choose the subject for these. Is that I actually will take the rock and I'll look at it, and this process is quite cathartic. I love doing this, and I just feel the rock, and as I'm touching it I'll turn it and I'll flip it, and I'll look at all the crevices, and I just think about the history, how old this is and where it came from, and I look, and then I don't intend on looking for a subject. I let it come to me. And so this one here, where I found, is an eagle. There's the beak, there's the head, and then these are going to be the wings. So this one I'm going to be painting an eagle. That will be just another video. This little one here, this has got 2 layers. You can see the beautiful layers. And I'll flip it around, and this one here, my intention on this one, actually, when I first looked at it, and I saw a bear. I saw a bear right here, but as I flipped it over and I saw here either a cow or a lamb, and this one was instant when I turned it here. There's the eye and there's the nose, and this could be the ear. So that'll be another video. And this one here's the one I'm going to be doing in this lesson, because it's probably one of the easier ones to do, because we're going to use the rock form to create some shape, and it's going to be a seascape, but a seascape with some rock formations in the background. And ideally this is sort of what I think of the escarpment looking like from the distance on the QEW as it were driving to wine country, and just going down, and in the fall and spring, before the foliage comes in, the way the escarpment looks, and it's quite beautiful. So looking at this, and this ridge here is going to be the actual mountain formation. Water is going to be here. There will be a little bit of water here, and then we're going to have some sky. It's a very simple little piece. You can see all the layers here. It's a very simple little piece, and I want to talk to you about the paint. So okay, when it comes to paint, if you're going to be using these pieces outside, you need to prep them as outdoor pieces. So we're talking, the sealer, the paint, then you're going to seal them and seal them and seal them because of the outdoor elements. If you're painting it for inside, you could still do a sealer on them, the paint, and then depending on, if it's going to be touched a lot, you put another sealer on it, a varnish. But if it's going to be more decorative, then, you don't have to spend so much time prepping the piece. So I'm going to show you 1, 2, 3, 4 different things. So if you have craft paint, what you want to do is just, first of all, you're going to wash the stone, warm soapy water, rinse it really well, and let it air dry. Then you're going to use a primer sealer, and what I'm showing you are deco art products, because being a deco art helping artist, I really focus my knowledge on their products. So primer sealer, instructions are on the back, and then you just paint it with craft paint, and then you can use a varnish. So typically this is if your piece is just going to be decorative. Using the deco art media fluids, you can put your like a sealer on here. You can use matte medium, you can use a gesso, something to have the paint stick to this. Now this type of rock, the paint will stick to it. It's not going to be a problem. But using translucent paints, these are fluid acrylics, so they're not as opaque as, let's say, using the traditions or tube acrylics. This gray will show through. So whereas these are more opaque, you may want to cover this with a bit of gesso first, and then do your painting. So the gesso will create your base, and then you just use a varnish on top of that. Again, more for decorative if you want to keep it that way. Put that aside. And okay, so now I'm going to do this, and this. So for more of the fine art pieces, when I create fine art, I use the traditions, but I can still use traditions on this, and I will in one of the other videos. Is still wash the stone, use the multi-surface sealer on here, and I can use gesso. I can use this gesso here, and or just titanium white. It doesn't really matter as long as the stone is prepped. And this will work for outside. Okay, so you're gonna put your sealer on there. You're gonna do your painting, and then I can use a satin varnish. And this varnish here, the Traditions satin varnish, is for indoor and outdoor surfaces. So that'll be good for that. Okay, and we'll put that aside. But for this particular little lesson, I'm going to be using the Americana multi-surface satins. There's only one drawback. These colors are already pre-mixed, where, you know, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I prefer using the limited palettes with the pigment numbers on there, and I do a ton of color mixing. And for more of the quick and easy projects, for those of you guys that want to, you know, create something pretty for your garden, or just something, you know, little spirit stones or something like that, you may not be interested in color theory, so just use pre-mixed paints. Now, the multi-surface satins, multi-surface, they're great for that. Instructions are on the bottle, and what you want to do with this is usually 2 coats, gives great coverage, and it's letting the stuff cure. So as soon as it's painted and then it's dried, you just don't put it outside. Let it sit. You know, the bottle says 7 days. I leave it for about 2 weeks just to make sure. Especially in the summertime, if it's hot and humid, I let it sit for 2 weeks. How do I choose my colors? I already know that for my Seascape that I would look at using probably phthalo blue, Hansa yellow light for the water, ultramarine blue, and white for the sky. So what do I use? Well, I looked at the colors, and I just turned these upside down just so you can see what colors I'm going to be going with. So we have the water and sky, and this is for the rocks, this is for the sandy area, and this is for just foam in the water and some, you know, just to lighten some values. So you can go to the decoart.com website to get more information about these multi-surface satins and all the different things you can use with it. They have a whole bunch of products and mediums out there, so you can interchange a lot of that stuff. So that's all, you can do some searching for that. And brushes, I've got a couple of flats, a large one, a small one, and 2 rounds, a large one and a small one. These are the Aqualon brushes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause. I'm going to lay out my paint, and my stone has already been cleaned and dried, and then we'll get started. All right, so let's go over the colors that I'm going to be using. Lay these down. All right, so I'm using deep turquoise, sky blue, night sky, muted gold, mushroom, coffee bean, and cotton ball. If you were looking at traditional colors, what you would look at is titanium white, let's say maybe a burnt umber, Titan buff, or take some white with a little bit of, let's say, yellow ochre and a tad of burnt umber. Muted gold, I would think maybe yellow ochre. Night sky, I would say maybe some ultramarine blue, maybe a little bit of black, some white, or ultramarine blue, black. This is pretty neutral. And then the sky blue, maybe a little bit of a mix of phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, and some white, and deep turquoise, same as this, and add a little bit of yellow to it. So it's all about color mixing. I am going to do another video, which will be a formal art lesson of the same type of design using the Traditions paints, so for color mixing, because not everybody has this product, just to show different ideas, and that lesson will be in the studio. So a paper towel, I'm going to dampen my brush, and I have a little mister brush here as well to spray the paints if they happen to start drying out. So the one thing I want to do is, I already know what the paints can do, but if it's your first time using the paint, you can, on the back side, you can take, a little bit of color, put it on there, and see, how much coverage you'll get. Like I said, the tubes say 2 coats. What I want to do is I want to paint this with some white. I'm just going to go to the edge. I'm not going to worry about going all the way over. And although there's the stone is washed and dried, stone is porous, And you can choose, you can wrap the paint all the way around. I want to leave a little bit of the stone showing just for more where the stone came from. And what these are nice to do is little abandonment projects. So you just paint little stones like this, little pieces of art, and put them into a bag or something with a little card, and you leave them out in public places. And it's like that random act of kindness that I love to promote. And making art with no expectations in return, but just to make someone smile. Now, one tip I'm going to give you, and this will be different depending on the artist that you speak to. Using a heat gun on stone, you can use I use a heat gun on stone way up, and not so much to dry the paint, but I gently heat the stone, which then starts to dry the paint also from underneath and out. You can't heat the stone so much because it will actually burn the paint. And on top of that, you heat the stone, it's going to take forever to come back to room temperature. So you don't want to make the stone hot. Okay, because when you're painting, it's already dried and this isn't coming off. So when the stone is dry and it's cool or room temperature, then you can continue painting. Just don't paint on the stone if it's super hot. So just to show you, the heating process is right about a foot above. Always keep it moving. As long as my hand is comfortable with the heat, I'm fine. But if it gets too hot, I move the heat gun away and just continue drying. If you let it dry by itself, depending on your environment, it could take maybe 2 or 3 minutes, which gives you time to clean your brush and then prep for the next step. All right, so I changed my mind. I painted the sides of this because I'm thinking that this could also be nice as little, you know, these little planters that you have, all the succulents and all that stuff. You can put a little piece in there as well. So I painted the bottom, and I'll have sealer everywhere. All right, so I'm going to go to a little smaller brush. Actually, this is too small. This is too small. This is a number 4. I'm going to go to a number 6 instead. And what I want to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of white. We're going to do a little bit of wet on wet painting. So I'm just going to put a little bit of paint here, and I'm going to bring that right down. And you can see that part of the mountain part, I left that by itself. So the idea is to have for the sky, and then the water is going to be right here. And for the sky color, I want the color to be grayer at the bottom. So I'm going to work with the night sky with a little bit of white. And a touch of turquoise. And just start bringing that across. And by working the white on it first, it automatically lightens the color and it makes it more blendable. Now with these types of paintings as well, and I know I'm talking a lot and I'm talking pretty fast, I want to make sure that, you know, if you've never painted on rocks before, that you get as much information as possible. That this technique is a little bit rough on the brushes, so don't use your super good brushes. These Aqualon brushes are good, but these are ones that I use for mixed media because I abuse the brushes, so I'm not worried about it. You can use bristle brushes, but the bristle brushes I have are a little bit big for this. Bring that down. And I'll just pick up a little bit of the sky blue, and I'll just kind of wisp some of that around. Not complete coverage, because the stuff in between acts like clouds. A little bit more white. And you know what I want to do? Let me. I'm going to bring up some Bluebird. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm just taking a little bit of the sky blue and the deep turquoise, and I'm just painting the bottom part here, which I forgot to do. I'm gonna make it a little bit lighter. But I'm not so much lighter, I'm just gonna blend that a little bit better. Okay. And when you're painting, you don't want to paint this way, you still want to paint horizontal. Oh, chaos is here. Just painting slightly over the rocks, because the rock is going to be covering it, so I don't want any white parts showing. There we go, like that. And now painting rocks are I love painting rocks. I'm going to use my little round brush, and with this here, I'm going to start with the coffee bean. Don't you dare jump on the table. Coffee bean, and we'll get it started. And I'm just going to, see how I'm painting that? Just choppy. Because what's going to happen as well is that the paint itself, the way it's applied, will also add to more texture. And I'll take a little bit of the muted gold. I'll pop that in there. So what I like to try to remember is that every time I pick up paint, I go into something different, especially when it comes to the rocks, to create a different value. I can even go into a little bit of the night sky and come in here, especially the front, because the rocks are wet. Right in there. Now where's that edge? That edge is right there. And it's got to be sharp. It can't be soft. A little bit of the brown, that coffee bean. And the rocks can, like I said, you can make the rocks any color you want. Ideally, if it's possible, you know, if you have an area where you can go and look at rocks, say by a riverbed or whatever, and just look at them. Taking pictures doesn't always work. The camera doesn't pick up what the eye can see, because you can move around and you can look at the pieces and look at all that stuff. Now in here, I'm going to go to a smaller brush with the coffee bean and a little bit of the night sky. I'm going to get right in here. Going to be a little bit more careful because I don't want that going into the sky, but this creates some great depth. Truly dimensional. And I'm using the rock. The rock is just kind of telling me where to put the paint. Go into a little bit more of the muted gold. And although this is wet on wet, the colors as they're being blended together create some beautiful shades. Like look at that yellow. Then I come in and go to a bigger brush. Go in with the coffee bean, and it just creates all these different hues. And you don't want, in the paint, you don't want to use anything that's too thick, because you're going to cover up all the pores. So I'm going to do this until I get a good amount, like a good layer over that. Then I'll let it dry. Then I'll come back with another layer. Now as well on the sides, because I'm handling the rock, I'll paint the sides at the end. But if you're, I mean, you can come in and you can just, you know, finish the rock all the way to here. So I would come in here and just pick a line and continue the cliff right there. The back I will likely finish probably with whatever paint I have left over, so there's not wasted. Is when you sign the rock, you should always sign your work. You know, depending if I paint it with night sky, I'll have to sign it with a light colored paint. If you use a light colored paint, you just sign it with a dark color paint. Okay. So the side you can do whenever you want. I'm going to do that at the end. And I now have a layer on here, so now it's time to let it dry. And then when I come back, I'll work on the next layer, starting to build in some more of the tones. All right, so that's had some time to dry now. You can start seeing a little bit of that nice satin finish on there. So when I come in, and I'm going to, now I need that tiny little brush I was going to start off with. The number 4. And I'm going to take some of the coffee bean, a little of the night sky, and pop in some dark pieces. And, you know, I'm being choppy, very choppy with it. This is going to help create the portions of the dark rock that's wet. We're going to be able to create some highlights as well. Even though I put some of the muted gold on there, still going to be able to come in to do that. And up here the rock, because here where it's not going to be wet, but it's going to be dark, it's out of light. I'm putting a little bit more night sky in there. That's too much night sky. Coming with a little bit more of the coffee bean. You can use black if you want. I prefer making darks with my browns. I also painted the sides, so I'll just bring that in as well. That coffee bean color actually works out really nice as a nice color for rocks. And I just load some more coffee bean, bring that down, keep it choppy so you don't get a flat finish. Take a little bit now of that muted gold. Again, still keeping it choppy. And so so think of the light being here, the sun being here. So let's just draw a sun. So things are going to come down here, and just it's going to hit the sides. But as well, what it's also going to do, we need to take a little bit of that white. I'm going to take a little bit of the white and the muted gold. And I'm going to create just a little bit of a creamy color. Don't need a lot, but you won't be able to see what I'm doing. It's not too bad. And we're just going to hit little the ridges and edges. You're just going to put some of that in there. And we don't want to create snow. We don't want to create snow. We want to hit, create little hits of light on there. So I'm letting the rock grab the paint. I can even take a little bit of the blue, a little bit of the white, to create a very, very light color. And I can also use that. And it looked like some water hitting the edge. So it depends on the formation of the rock, depends on what you're going for. This would be better done with a bristle brush. I'll come in with a little bit more of the brown. Come in here. I love the effect with the muted gold. Okay, keeping our sun there. Gonna rinse the brush. Now while that's drying, I'm going to come in with a smaller brush with some white and a little bit, let's see, a little bit of that turquoise, not too much. I just want to lighten the white or darken the white a little bit, and just come in here. I need some water, a little bit of water, just to make it more fluid. And with the smallest brush, and just come in, it's little horizontal strokes, and it looks like little ripples in the water. Break up the line so you don't have something like a long continuous line. And if, like you say, you paint a continuous line like that, come in with a little bit of that turquoise in here and then just break it up. Easy to fix. But wet on wet, you can come in with the paint direct. You don't have to color mix it. Okay, put more in there. Too much white, come in with the blue or the turquoise and just break it up. And it creates more interest in the water as well. Okay, little tiny little waves. You can come in with little fluff. There's anatomies of waves. I'm not gonna, that's way over and above this design, but I want to have the wave crashing right here. And then just come in a little bit more dark, take a little bit more white, and it's just more of a layering game. The detail will be more obvious in the front, like closer to you, then the details fade as you work back. And I can take a little bit of that turquoise. It's such a small amount, right about in the middle of where that white is, where the eye of the wave is. It's going to be so small. There's also 2 divots right here. There's 2 divots right there. I'm going to put some more paint in there. There we go. There's a crash. Like that. There we are. And then from here I can turn on, okay, what do I want to put something else in the sky? Well, yeah, I could put a little bit more cloud in there, just very, you know, touch just a little bit. Depends on what you want your focal point to be, and I'm thinking I want the focal point to be this area right here. So this is where you're going to put most of your detail. You don't want the painting elements to compete with each other. So I'll just take a little bit more white and I'll just fluff this up just a little bit more. Go. Then on my dirty brush, pick up some of that muted gold, come back in here. Oh, there's a nice hit of highlight here, right there. Take a little bit of white right there. There we are. Bit more white on the dirty brush, work it down. And it looks like water is kind of dripping on there. And if you by chance put too much white on there, so let's say right here, let's say it's dried and right here, hang on, let me just do this. Let me dry it. It's not going to take a lot. So let's say you want to cover that up. Rinse your brush because there's white on there. And then come in now with a little bit of the brown coffee bean and just paint over it. And we're just neutralizing that just a speck. Here we go. You can take a little bit of that night sky, and you're just gonna let the rock speak to you. You know, put in what you want in there. I'm finding the night sky by itself is too blue, so I'm just mixing it in with the coffee bean, and that's about it. So there's our cute little rock. Take a little bit more of the yellow. Just a little bit up here. And we're all set. So there's our cute little seascape rock painting, which didn't take a lot of time, but it's quite pretty. So once all this is dry, I can come back in and put another layer of paint around the sides, and I'll paint the back as well, so I can actually sign it and not come off. And with this particular product, it's ready to go. You know, depending on whatever else you're using, if you're using the regular acrylics or patio paints or something like that, follow the directions for sealing and you'll be all set. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and that's how small it is. It's a tiny little piece. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and also feel free to create this on a little canvas or, you know, little you know, coasters or something, just to create something unique instead of a formal painting. And you know, just give it away. You know, just make somebody smile. You know, people love art, and it's always nice to receive a little gift that's unexpected. So comment below the video what you thought of this. Also, if you've ever painted on rocks, what paints do you use? Do you use special brushes? Do you use special paints? Share in the comments below. That way we can all share from each other. And as well, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That way you won't miss anything. Alrighty, and if you'd like to share a picture of your little seascape, please feel free to do so. You can share it in my private Facebook group. The link to that is on my website at artplace.ca. So I'm going to clean up, and I'm going to paint the back, let all this dry, and I'm going to prepare for my next project. So until I see you then, stay inspired.